He was supposed to be finished. The numbers said so. The industry said so. By late 2025, the golden age of streaming was officially on life support. But while everyone else was quitting or selling out, Darren Watkins Jr., better known as iShowSpeed, bet $1 million on an unalive mission. He didn't just save his career, he accidentally rewrote the laws of international relations. Let's be real for a second. The internet was boring. If you were watching Twitch or YouTube in late 2025, you know exactly what I mean. It was a wasteland. You had the same creators sitting in the same expensive gaming chairs in the same LED-lit rooms, reacting to the same TikTok clips. It was the desktop meta, and it was dead. The audience felt it, the creators felt it, the numbers proved it. Even the biggest titans were hitting a wall. Look at the data. In November 2025, Speed's channel, the Juggernaut of Chaos, was flatlining. He was gaining maybe 3,000 subscribers a day. For you or me, that is a dream. For a viral machine like Speed, that is a funeral procession. The energy was gone. The screaming at the camera gimmick was starting to feel like a bad caricature. He had won Streamer of the Year. He was rich, but he was trapped in a box. Then came the final nail in the coffin. January 13th, 2026. Kai Cenat, the face of Twitch, the guy who seemed untouchable. He uploads a video titled "I Quit." He talked about feeling boxed in. He talked about self-doubt. He pivoted to fashion and mental health because he knew what we all knew deep down. The game was over. You could not just sit in a room and scream anymore. The algorithm was starving for something real and nobody was feeding it. This was the atmosphere. Fear, stagnation, a creative recession. Speed had two choices. He could keep doing what he was doing, slowly bleeding viewership until he became a Remember Him legacy act, or he could burn the whole thing down. He chose the fire. Speed and his team looked at the map. They looked at the United States, tapped out. They looked at Europe, been there, done that. Then they looked at the one place the Western media had spent decades ignoring, misrepresenting, or lying about: Africa. This wasn't a vacation. Do not get it twisted. This was a military operation. Reports indicate this tour cost 7 figures, over $1 million. He dropped $300,000 on a custom tour bus alone. This was a rolling server room designed to broadcast high-definition video from the middle of the most chaotic crowds on Earth. Think about the risk here. If the signal fails, he looks like an amateur. If the security fails, he gets hurt. If the content is boring, he loses $1 million and proves the haters right. And there were plenty of haters. The skepticism was loud. Reddit threads, Twitter comments, industry experts. They all said the same thing. They said the internet in Africa was too slow. They said it was too dangerous. They looked at a continent of 54 countries and saw nothing but poverty and problems. This is where the genius kicks in. Speed didn't try to argue with them. He didn't release a press statement. He used their prejudice as bait. He created a mystery box. He told his audience, "I am going to the place you are scared of. Watch what happens." It was a thriller. You tuned in to see if the stream would cut out. You tuned in to see if he would get robbed. You tuned in for the disaster, but you stayed for the revolution. The tour was kicked off in South Africa, and immediately the script was flipped. Most celebrities, when they visit a country, stay in the hotel. Maybe they do a meet and greet at a mall. They stay behind the velvet rope. They treat the locals like props in a photo op. Speed went straight to the townships. He linked up with local fixers like Noda Boloi. He bypassed the tourist traps and went where the real people were. This is critical. He didn't act like a savior. He acted like a participant. Look at the spinning segment. This is a subculture deep in the heart of South African township life. It is dangerous. It is loud. Cars drifting inches from the crowd. Speed didn't watch from a balcony. He got in the car. He hung out the window. He ate the local food. We are talking about tripe. We are talking about kusho. He paid 2 rand to use a public bathroom. Why does this matter? Because it shattered the poverty shock value narrative instantly. The camera didn't show sad music and flies. It showed hype. It showed style. It showed a culture that was cooler, faster, and more alive than anything happening in Los Angeles. The audience at home, the kids in Ohio and London, were watching this and thinking, wait, I want to be there. He was building trust. He was showing the South Africans that he wasn't there to look down on them. He was there to party with them. But you can't have a hero's journey without a villain. Enter White Speed. If you were writing a movie, you would invent this character, but this is real life, which makes it terrifying. A superfan who goes by the name Tiki Wachowski decided that watching the stream wasn't enough. He spent every dollar he had to fly to Africa and stalk Speed across the continent. He wore the same clothes, he mimicked the barking, he even wore a green mask to hide his identity. This was somehow funny and creepy at the same time. He started popping up in the background of streams, a blurry figure in the distance, then closer, then interacting with the crew. In Kenya, he appeared again, hanging off buildings, doing dangerous stunts just to get noticed. Speed's security team had to intervene. They warned him, they told him to stop, but he didn't stop. This added a layer of psychological horror to the documentary. It wasn't just a fun travel vlog anymore, it was a game of cat and mouse. White Speed represented the dark side of the parasocial relationship. He was the physical manifestation of the obsession Speed creates. He was the chaos staring back at Speed in the mirror. And he kept the audience glued to the screen. Where is he? Is that him in the crowd? Is he going to do something crazy? Speed was conquering the continent, but he couldn't shake his own shadow. If South Africa was the warm-up, Kenya was the main event. This is where the dam broke. On January 11, 2026, the stream started like any other. By the end of the day, iShowSpeed was the most important person in the country. The numbers went vertical. We are talking about 360,000 new subscribers in 24 hours. He crossed 48 million subscribers live on air. But the stats are boring. Look at the visuals. Speed rented a helicopter. He flew over Nairobi. Stop and look at that footage. For millions of Western viewers, this was a shock to the system. They expected huts, they expected dirt roads. What they got was a metropolis. Skyscrapers, expressways, the under-construction Talanta Stadium. The chat went crazy. I didn't know Africa looked like this. That sentence right there, that is worth more than billions of dollars in foreign aid. That is a perception shift. That is a worldview shattering in real time. The Kenyan government saw this happening, and they are smart. President William Ruto didn't ignore the kid with the camera. He invited him to the state house. Think about that. A head of state shaking hands with a 20-year-old YouTuber who barks at people. Why? Because President Ruto knew that Speed had more influence than CNN. He knew that Speed riding in a matatu, the chaotic neon-lit minibuses of Nairobi, did more for Kenyan tourism than 10 years of traditional marketing. Speed was becoming a propaganda breaker. Black Americans were watching these streams and crying, literally weeping. You can find the reaction videos on YouTube. They were realizing that everything they had been told about their heritage was a lie. It wasn't just sadness, it was pride. And then the mask slipped. When he hit 48 million subscribers, surrounded by the adoration of an entire city, Speed broke down. He cried. Real tears. For a guy who built his career on being loud, obnoxious, and tough, this was a vulnerability we never saw. He realized the weight of what he was doing. He wasn't just playing a video game anymore, he was connecting worlds. He bought a shirt from a local vendor. The price was 3,000 shillings. Speed gave him 20,000. He wasn't doing it for clout. You could see it in his face. He was overwhelmed by the love. Kenya was the peak. It was the moment the gamble paid off. But you know what they say about flying too close to the sun. As the tour moved north, the vibe shifted. The vibe-based diplomacy that worked in Nairobi slammed into a brick wall in North Africa. In Egypt, Speed made history. He became the first creator to live stream from inside the Pyramid of Giza. This should have been the coolest moment of the tour. Instead, it was tense. The security was tight, the regulations were strict, Speed complained, the stream was eventually deleted. It showed the limits of his power. You can charm a crowd in Soweto, but you cannot charm the Egyptian antiquity police. Then came Algeria. Things got ugly. He went to a football match. The crowd wasn't hyping him up. They were throwing bottles at him. He had to be evacuated. Why the hostility? Because Speed stepped on a landmine he didn't even know existed, the Argan Oil War. It sounds ridiculous, but this is geopolitics. In a market, a vendor sold him Algerian argan oil. Speed broadcasted this to 50 million people. The problem? Morocco considers argan oil their national heritage. Moroccans flooded the chat. They were furious. They accused Algeria of stealing their culture. Speed was suddenly in the middle of a diplomatic crisis between two nations. He didn't know the history. He didn't know the tension. He just wanted to make content. This was the reality check. Speed is a chaos diplomat. He has the reach of a diplomat, but he has the training of a gamer. He is an unguided missile. Sometimes he hits the target, and sometimes he blows up the wrong building. But even with friction, the momentum was unstoppable. He had one final boss to beat: Morocco, the AFCON 2025 final. The Super Bowl of Africa. Tens of thousands of fans in the stadium, millions watching on TV. Rumors were flying. Was Speed in the country? Was he going to streak on the field? The official mascot, a lion named Assad, walked out. He was hyping up the crowd. He was dancing a little too well. He was moving with an energy that looked familiar. The camera zoomed in. The mascot reached up. He pulled off the head. The stadium erupted. This wasn't a stream sniper. This wasn't a grainy webcam video. This was the biggest sporting event on the continent, and Speed was the main character. He had infiltrated the official proceedings. He wasn't an outsider looking in anymore. He was part of the show. Think about the journey. He started in a room in Ohio, screaming at a monitor. He ended up center stage in Rabat, commanding the attention of the entire African continent. That moment, the mascot reveal, was the death certificate of the desktop meta. It proved that physical fame, tangible fame, the kind where people scream your name in a stadium, is infinitely more valuable than digital likes. So why is everyone talking about iShowSpeed again? It is not because he barked at a camel. It is not because he did a backflip. It is because he showed us the future. The Speed Does Africa tour was a wake-up call for every creator, every marketer, and every government on the planet. He proved that the Western audience is bored. We are tired of the same 5 cities. We are tired of the same polished fake content. He proved that the global South, Africa, South America, Southeast Asia, is the new frontier for growth. Look at the stats again. Before the tour, he was flat. During the tour, he gained 2.3 million subscribers in 3 weeks. He didn't just get more viewers, he got new viewers. He tapped into emerging markets that other creators are too scared to touch. He proved that streamer tourism is the most powerful marketing tool in the world. A 30-second clip of Speed eating street food did more for that vendor than a $1 million ad campaign ever could. He humanized the map. There is a lesson in all of this for you. You might not be a streamer with 50 million subscribers, you might not have a tour bus, but the principle is the same. If you stay in your room, if you stay in your comfort zone, you will stagnate, you will fade away. The algorithm rewards risk. The world rewards action. Speed bet everything on the unknown. He went to the places they told him not to go. He did the things they told him he couldn't do. And in the process, he didn't just become the biggest streamer in the world, he became a legend. So the next time you're feeling stuck, the next time you feel like you are hitting a wall, ask yourself, are you going to sit at your desk and complain? Or are you going to do something about it?